I mean, success is tough. Becoming a millionaire is tough. Anything that you want to do that's worth having is tough. But if you have education, if you have guidance, if you have a mentor, you can get there quicker. Without it, you're just fumbling around, and you might still get it, but it just takes longer. So education, I mean, unlocks everything quicker. So my parents gave me control of my bar mitzvah money, roughly 12 grand. They thought it would be a good lesson to give it to me and I would lose it all. And that was the way that they kind of teach. Instead, I turned it into nearly 2 million before I graduated college, trading low price stocks. I didn't know about low price stocks. I didn't say, hey, I want to be a penny stock trader. This is like the most universally hated niche in all of finance. But I started investing in big companies. My account wasn't going anywhere. Like when you have a small account, you just can't make that much money. Like 10 or 20% per year returns don't matter. So I gravitated towards these lower price speculative stocks. And the internet has changed things. The Wolf of Wall Street made them very famous, but he was pre-internet. You couldn't do research on these companies. Now you do, Google Street Map views. Like you look at these company headquarters, a lot of them are scams. You can actually make money betting against scams. You can bet on lower prices. You can bet on failure. And if 99% of penny stocks fail, and you're betting on failure, then you have a 99% chance of profiting. You just have to find shares to short, which is what's so tough. It works for small accounts, but not big accounts. So I have made millions of dollars, but there's scalability issues. So then I was like, well, I'm teaching something that's very useful. There's still a lot of people who get scammed by these penny stocks and hopes of like the big next Microsoft, which it never is. So I teach people how to spot scams, how to profit from short selling them. And then also there's a few good companies. The cool thing about penny stocks, there's inefficiencies too, where a company might announce big earnings or a big partnership, like thus validating their little technology. And it takes a few days for Wall Street to understand that because no one's following these companies. So there's an inefficiency with the scams, there's an inefficiency with the good companies, and you as an individual investor or trader can take advantage of that if you move quick enough. 90% of traders lose money. The whole industry pretty much loses money. The only people that make money are brokers. So I'm training my students for battle. I'm basically like a drill sergeant. I give them rules, I give them lessons, I teach them patterns, I teach them exactly how to spot scams. Like you can look this stuff up on the internet. The internet changes everything. Most people aren't utilizing it. Lack of preparation is a big thing, okay? People think, oh, this is a good company, this is a good technology. No, that's not how you should look at companies. I had a big $500,000 loss once upon a time before I really crystallized my rules. I didn't respect them until I had lost big. I didn't understand how valuable they were. I invested in basically this company that invented print-at-home ticketing. I was right about the technology. Everyone loves print-at-home ticketing, from airlines to movie theaters to amusement parks. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna make millions. I was right about the technology. I was wrong about the company. The company went bankrupt, bad debts, so many problems. The CEO who looked me in my eye, said that everything was gonna be fine, actually bought the company in bankruptcy. Later, he sold the company for, $40, $50 million. It would have made me several million dollars. But I was wiped out too soon because I did not know the rules of the game. People don't know the rules. They think that it's just good companies, good picks, bad picks. It's not. There's a whole bunch of different variables, and that's what I teach. I have a website called traderchecklist.com. It's an 11-hour guide, all free, because a lot of people say, oh, Tim, you just make your money from teaching. And I'm like, all right, here's all this stuff for free. Take it. And it's actually my least viewed guide of all, even though it's totally free.
That's interesting. Why is it the least viewed guide?
Broke people are usually lazy. So, I can't make everybody happy. So I made it free to make the broke people happy. Broke people don't watch it. This is why most people who start as my students, they start with a few $1,000s and they take it seriously. When they take it seriously and they put in hours and hours of education, like learning the variables. So Trader Checklist, I have 7 key variables. It's not just, oh, is the news good? What is the market? What is the market cap? What is this stock's history with spiking? I find that if a stock has spiked big in the past before, it can do it again. It's kind of like muscles have memory, stocks have memory. So I'm looking at all of this stuff, not just about what is the news, what's happening right now. Stock market is not an exact science. So I have to teach kind of like the art and the buy the rumor, sell the news. That's just one of the many intricacies. Rule number 1 is cut losses quickly. I've made millions of dollars, but like I said, I had a $500,000 loss. You learn real quick to respect the rules. I didn't know the rules when I had that big loss. I had been batting 1,000. I never had a big loss before. So I didn't have like my risk management. I was emotionally invested in this company. I was big time financially invested. Now I always cut losses quickly. I only invest small amounts that I'm willing to lose. If the stock starts to go against me for whatever reason, I don't care how good my analysis was, if it goes against me by 5%, I'm out. So I don't let a small mistake turn into a potential big disaster. I lose roughly 35% of the time. So I'm not right 100% of the time. The key is controlling my losses. And discipline is the number one problem. Like, how do you stick to those rules? Take a big loss. You'll hate yourself. You'll hate that feeling. You'll never want it again. You learn from your mistakes. You learn what not to do. And now, rule number one, cut losses quickly. Rule number two, don't use leverage. Don't go all in. Any one trade can blow you up. The key to making millions is lots of small profits over and over again. My average profit is just $2,000. This was an interesting stat. All my millionaire students are from the Midwest. And I was like, what is this? What is this in the Midwest? Because the Midwest is fucking boring. There's nothing to do. So they spend all of their time studying because there's fucking nothing to do. The weather's terrible outside usually. Like, they're just watching like corn go by, like little haystacks. But because there's nothing to do, they study harder. I have 5,000 plus video lessons. They need to learn every single intricate. In history class, you study the Roman Empire, the Egyptian Empire, the Chinese Empire, and you see what they did right and what they did wrong. We don't realize, like, the Egyptian Empire lasted 4,000 years. I mean, we haven't had anybody else since then that have really lasted that long. Like, even though the Egyptians was a very long time ago, they used my people, I'm Jewish, as slaves, right? So not the best, but they were still long lasting. So there are lessons from that. If I wanted to create an empire today, I would learn from those Egyptians. If you want to see what the next hot sector is going to be, learn from past hot sectors. I don't know what the next hot sector is. People are like, okay, Tim, you teach, you have all these lessons. Just give me one tip. Like, what's the stock to invest in? What do you invest in? You invest in your knowledge, your potential to be prepared for the future plays. There's always going to be another hot sector, but most people are unprepared because they haven't studied the past. I think that I'm very hardworking. I've learned what works over now 20 years now. Not just from trading, but from teaching. I've been teaching now for 10 years. So I'm always adapting. I'm always trying new stuff. I had no idea that my millionaire students would be from the Midwest. I have a lot of millionaire students who are named Tim. Like, these random things keep happening. I don't plan them. It would be a lot easier, like when we're in the chat room and there's 5 Tims trying to talk, and it's confusing. I'm like, why? Why did it work out this way? For me, all I can do is try to adapt and learn from my own experiences and then pass them down to others. I am very good at being transparent and not caring what other people think. I think that's helped. I've been on a few reality shows. I look like a fucking jackass every time, whether it's my own bad jokes or the editing or a combination of the two. But it gets people's attention and it gets people studying, which is the key to success. You know, the more hours you put in. I think too many people focus on strategies where they're never going to get rich. Like, if you're an Uber driver, you're working hourly. Like, there's only so many hours per day. Like, a lot of people waste too much time on these strategies that have no exponential growth. With me, the way that I teach, the same exact trade where you might buy 100 shares in the beginning, and you should start small when you're trying to trade stocks. You could do that exact same trade 2, 3, 5 years later with 1,000 shares or 10,000 shares. And it's the same trade where you're trying to make 10 or 20, maybe 30% on your trade, but you can take a bigger position. And that way I'm teaching skills that have exponential income growth later on. And that's what kind of is the key to my success. Understanding that success takes time and breaking it down and, chopping it up into little bite-sized pieces so that people, when they are starting, they can understand it. So there's a whole bunch of patterns. If I broke everything down, there's probably 20 key patterns that between me and all my top students utilize. It's based on our personality. Some of us like to short sell. Some of us like to bet against stocks. I made my second million betting against stocks. I made my first million going long. You have to adapt to the market. You have to adapt to what you're comfortable with. I have a lot of people who like to trade against me. I have an Instagram story right now where one of my students just made $6,500 and he's thanking me on Instagram. And I was like, you know what? Thank you, but thank my haters even more, because without my haters, I would never work this hard. Like, I had so many haters and so many doubters saying, like, you can't trade penny stocks, you can't create a millionaire. And I'm like, fucking watch me. And all of that hate, all of that doubt makes me work these 16, 18, 20-hour days pretty much every single day because I want to prove them wrong. So I'm very grateful for them. If I had no haters or doubters, I was already rich before I got started teaching. Life was boring, Now I have a mission.
What is the mission?
To teach and, to change people's lives. and now with charity. I mean, this whole logo that I'm wearing, this is Karmagawa. This is my new charity foundation. So Karmagawa, there's no I in it because it's not about me, it's the community. And now we have, over 50 schools. We support animal shelters and medical clinics. And I'm actually going back down to Africa in a few weeks. We have this great charity called VetPaw. There's a lot of stuff that I want to do educationally wise and then, now charity wise giving back because frankly, I have a very good life. I mean, you don't need more than a few $1 million in your bank account. I gave a TEDx talk how I'll never be a billionaire. I know a few billionaires, they're fucking miserable. They're unhappy. They're in prisons of their own wealth. I don't want that. So if I make $1 billion, I'll be donating, 980 million. I think that a lot of billionaires, obviously they're very successful in business. They work very hard. A lot of them have earned it. Some have had inherited it, but everyone knows that they have a lot of money. And when you have that, I mean, I'm not a billionaire. I only have a few $1 million. I'm perfectly okay with admitting that. But I have given a lot of interviews talking about my millions of dollars. Like if you look at my Instagram, it's all money, 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 because I find that inspires students to study harder. If I post a picture of my Lamborghini, the views go up. The length of time that people study these technical video lessons goes up when I show off my Lamborghini. I've shown up like $1 million in cash before on Instagram. And the billionaires that I know, they might not boast about it, but everyone knows that they're wealthy. So they need security. They can't really trust anybody that they meet. Like, they have a normal conversation, but the people who are talking to them, they're not really saying what they really think. They just want to utilize the billionaire's money or time or connection somehow. I think that money serves a lot of purposes, but too much of it can be detrimental. I know like The Social Network, fantastic movie, very entertaining, but they made the notion that, $1 million isn't cool. $1 billion is cool. Fuck that. $1 billion sucks. If you have $1 billion in your bank account, you're wasting all of that opportunity. Do you know how many people in schools and animals all over the world that could benefit from your $1 billion? And you're just a selfish prick. That's the truth, I think that there's a lot that you can do with money. And a lot of rich people don't do it. I don't have a lot of rich friends. You can tell I make some bad jokes. I mean, I think that you have to get out there and see what you can do. I mean, I never intended on creating a whole charity company or, building all these schools. My goal is now to build 1,000 schools. I never started this way. Going to third world countries opens your eyes. I mean, when I was in Laos, I had 2 schools open there with a great charity called Pencils of Promise. I've donated $2 million to Pencils of Promise so far. I'm going to keep donating more because I love what they're doing. They build schools all over the world. But when I was in Laos at one of my school openings, this one little child came up to me and hugged me. And, the children don't have much. They have like nothing. So it was a very small child and she hugged my leg. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cute. And that was an amazing feeling. But then I looked down on the ground. She didn't have sneakers on. And the ground, I mean, Laos, I don't know if you've seen it. It's very jagged rocks. Like the ground is hot, it's rocky. And so she was not barefoot. She had taped, or her parents had taped, a plastic water bottle to her feet that acted as shoes. And it just blew my mind thinking we have these shoes, we have so much. And this child was so happy, so grateful for the chance at education. We go, in the communities that have nothing. So you need a different perspective. And charity and travel has given me that. I read about 2,000 books. For me, I've always found hot stocks, but I have problems when there's no hot stocks and I have itchy fingers like I want to trade. Like I'm a degenerate addict too. So I've always had to find something else to do. So I've read a lot of books. IMDb for movies has a list of the top 250 movies. I watch them all. I need something to fulfill my mind. Now it's traveling and charity. There's so much information on the internet right now. Like you don't need old sources anymore. Everyone's like, oh, what do you need to do? Like, just pay attention to what's going on. The internet is the most amazing tool that we've had literally in centuries, probably since the printing press, like 500 years ago. And there's so much opportunity, whether you're reading blogs or listening to podcasts or videos, just consume it and kind of wander. Like I love doing that. I love just going to like YouTube, clicking one video and then, seeing, oh, this came up. Let me research that. So I just want to learn everything. And it's amazing time to learn. So for me, I always wanted to be rich, but now that I've gotten there, there's some strings. Like no one really teaches you how to be rich. I've lived in mansions, I lived in penthouses, have all the expensive cars. Like the cars, I always wanted a Lamborghini, right? I got a Lamborghini, now I have 2 Lamborghinis. Like the high disappears. You need more meaning in your life. And I think that a lot of rich people are actually depressed, which people don't realize. They're like, oh, look at this rich guy. He has all this money and he's depressed. What's wrong with him? I would give anything to be like that. but they put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable, right? Like they didn't understand there's more to life than money or toys or all this stuff. Like you have to find meaning. And for me and a lot of people, like, you know, you're on this journey, like I want to be successful, I want to be rich, that's what I want. But what about when you get there? You don't have a plan for that. So now I'm trying to teach, you know, all about charity and giving back and the lessons that I've learned now from being rich for several years. And it's not what you might think. There's a lot of stuff that comes with being rich and you don't realize it. And, you know, that's life. Like the cool thing about traveling to these third world countries is that these people have nothing and yet they're still happy. They're grateful to be alive. They're just grateful for every single day that they have, even though they have absolutely nothing. Think about the people in our country, a lot of people who have a lot of something, right? They might not be millionaires, but they have a lot in life and they're still not grateful. So I think we can change perspectives and we can change people's mindsets just by sharing stuff like this. It's this time in history that most people are wasting on the wrong stuff. They're spending it on Netflix or Fortnite or going out with their friends or drinking. And if you want to do that, that's fine. You know, enjoy your fucking mediocre or shitty life. But like, there's so much more that you can do with knowledge and studying. If you asked me this 10 years ago, I would have been like, go fuck yourself. Like there's no way, right? Like I'm a trader. I want to be a hedge fund. I love my Lamborghini. Like I had a very different mindset, but I was open-minded enough to try it. I was a philosophy major, right? I wasn't even a finance major. I was a finance minor. I was already studying on my own. I didn't feel the need to like major in that. So philosophy helped me understand that, you know, the smartest man is the man who knows that he knows nothing, right? So I'm okay with being open. I'm like, oh, let me try that. Let me try that. If you ever go out to eat with me, I order the whole fucking menu, right? This is probably why I've gotten fat before. But I want to try everything. I don't want to, you know, miss out on what might be the perfect dish. So be open-minded and try everything and see what, you know, feels good. As a teacher, I need to snap people out of a lot of their bad habits. I teach stock trading. I teach degenerate fucking addicts how not to be addicts anymore. Like I'm going...
Addicts like, because they're gambling?
Correct. It's like me going to the fucking casino and being like, stop playing blackjack, stop fucking, you know, pushing the little machine for the slot machine. I see a lot of people with bad habits. I see a lot of... people who, they're not bad people, but they've fallen prey to their greed and to just, you know, bad stuff. And I need to change that. A lot of students have big losses before they find me, or they even have them when they break my rule number one. They say, screw Sykes, I'm not gonna follow rule number one, I know better. And they have a big loss. You learn what not to do. You learn how bad it feels. And you don't know that bad feeling until you have it. So I can tell you all about the bad feeling, but you have to experience it. And then how do you overcome it? You can take it two ways, right? You could just let it destroy you and say, oh, life is terrible, I quit, I give up. Or you use it to make you better. I'll tell you, no millionaire trader, no top student of mine has ever not had a big loss. Every single top trader that I know has had at least one, sometimes several, and they've used it to mold them and get better. And that's what I think you have to do. When you make a mistake, it's a part of life. It's part of the journey. I gave a speech at Harvard and I said, you know, you have to appreciate the lows. You have to respect the lows. Celebrate the highs, but respect the lows. Don't block them out. Don't ignore them. And so for me, sharing everything transparently online, it's not just a good business practice. It's actually really good for me as a trader. I haven't had many big losses lately because I have to share everything with all my students. I don't want to look like a jackass. So I practice good habits unwittingly because I'm fully transparent. That's why I think it's very good to share all your stuff online, especially in the stock market. For me, I had a successful strategy. I just had not honed in on the rules. When I lost 500,000, it wasn't because I was, you know, such a bad person. It's because I didn't respect the rules. Rule number one was cut losses quickly. How did I develop rule number one? Because of the big loss. So you have to learn what not to do, but you also have to always be looking for success. And sometimes it takes a year, 2 years, 5 years. Like my top student has made 7 million. He made nothing his first 9 months. Think about that. Can you partake seriously, be obsessed with a subject that makes you money and make no money for 9 months? Most people would give up, right? And this is my best student. So if my best student takes 9 months, most people are going to take 12, 16, maybe 24, maybe 36 months before they understand it. My newest 6-figure student, Michael Hudson, just graduated college. He made nothing his first 2.5 years. Now in year 3, something has clicked and now he's making $5,000 a day. I'm like, how do we get this sooner? How do we get this sooner? And he didn't know. Like he took all these meticulous notes. I think you just need to realize that life, you know, works in mysterious ways, but it's also like a roller coaster and you have to try to use the lows when you're, in them, and you remember that. Like, don't forget about it. In order to be successful, I think this is the biggest thing. You have to be so dedicated to your craft and so passionate about it and so single-minded, focused on that, task. And most people just don't take it that seriously. They're like, yeah, I want to be a millionaire. Yeah, like I meet people and they're like, oh, you're that millionaire. And like a smile comes on their face, like, oh, how do I become a millionaire? But they don't really believe it. They're not asking seriously. They're not willing to put in the thousands of hours required. And again, like with my teachings, I think I can speed up the journey, but it's still going to be thousands of hours. Like there's no magic formula. This isn't like get rich quick. And those people who do get rich, like the lotto winners, like they're fucked up because they didn't earn it. They don't appreciate it. They don't understand it. I think that going through the ups and the downs is what makes you appreciate everything more. So I wouldn't change anything. Like people ask me like, oh, would you get rid of like your losses? I'd be like, no, like I would be an incomplete trader. I would be an incomplete teacher. I'd be an incomplete human if I didn't have my losses and screw ups. They've helped mold me for better or worse.